This is the Voice of Russia. The London bureau of the Voice of Russia is now live on digital radio and online, with news, comment and debate on weekdays between 4 and 7 p.m.
This is the Voice of Russia in London. I'm Alice Lagnado. Researchers at the Keston Institute, which studies religion in former communist countries, have spent years travelling the length and breadth of Russia to document its modern religious life. The result is an encyclopaedia of the great variety of religious groups that live in Russia. I asked chairwoman of the Keston Institute, Ksenia Dennen, about the shamanists and other religious groups that she met on her travels.
I remember in Blagoveshchensk it was the Yevhenny in the Yevhenki, who are, I think, shamanists, have certain rituals linked with reindeer particularly. I remember their enormous respect for certain animals, and I think one was the bear, and certainly the reindeer upon which their livelihood depended. In January, I was down in Kalmykia, which is an area near the Caspian Sea. The Kalmyks are a nomadic people who asked to become part of the Russian Empire. They, of course, were deported during the Second World War, so they suffered greatly under Stalin. Anyway, they were rehabilitated in 1957. They're a very poor, a small nation. They are traditionally Buddhists, but their Buddhism has sort of local aspects. And they have someone called the Bielый Starets, the White Elder, and in front of their main temple, which down in Kalmykia is called a Khurul, the Bielый Starets, great figure, just as you come up to the great stairs into this enormous temple in the capital of Kalmykia called Yelista.
And we don't know much about them. It's fascinating to hear from someone who's been recently to visit these communities that sound maybe not huge, but quite sizable and as if they've sustained their culture.
Yes, absolutely. Another area I went to was the Nenetsky Autonomous Okrug, right up in the Arctic Circle. Again, they have an indigenous religion, the Nenetsy, again reindeer herders. I talked to the local Orthodox priest, and obviously there's a lot of work to bring the Nenetsy into the Christian church, and many of the Protestant groups, particularly some of the Baptists, are having significant influence.
But they have their own religion.
That's right, and we actually talked to some of them in the Nenetsky Cultural Centre. Each family had a particular animal that was their protector, and animals that linked the sky and the water. Certain birds and duck were particularly venerated. And of course the reindeer too, which, as they are reindeer herders. But can I just tell you a wonderful story that the local Orthodox priest told me? How the Nenetsy were herding their reindeer, trying to get them across a frozen river, obviously in the middle of winter. And there were a lot of Orthodox with them, encouraging them. And the Orthodox prayed hard, and the Yevhenki started getting their reindeer across the ice, and the ice started to break, but the reindeer got to the other side, and then the Orthodox priest told me, and all the reindeer turned to the Orthodox on the other bank and went down on one knee and bowed.
Did you believe it?
That. Well, it's a wonderful story.
But it sounds as if, despite modern life, all the changes in Russia, these old religions have preserved themselves and sustained themselves.
I do think actually during the Soviet period they did respect local cultures, and there was an attempt to preserve and encourage local cultures.
Well, that's very interesting, because that goes against the traditional thinking that perhaps those cultures were given a bit more leeway than is thought.
I met a wonderful academic actually in Kalmykia, in Yelista, an expert on Buddhism. Now, she had been given this extraordinary opportunity. She went to the Institute of, I think it was Ethnology in Moscow. It was quite a liberal institute, and she was able to study Buddhism quite freely there. Maybe it was an exception, and of course all religions were suppressed, particularly under Stalin. But there were these certain oases of relative freedom.
That was me, Alice Lagnado, talking to Ksenia Dennen of the Keston Institute. You're listening to The Voice of Russia in London. Stay with us.